everybody, and welcome to EduMatch Tweet and Talk number 56. So definitely wanted to welcome you. Follow along with us on Google Plus at bit.ly/tweettalk56, as well as on Twitter with the hashtag EduMatch. Speaking of EduMatch, if you want to be the featured person of the day, then just sign up at our website, edumatch.org. Before we begin officially, we want to give a shout out to the EduPassions Conference, free online web conference beginning September 3rd at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can check that out at edupassions.org. So tonight's topic, we're going to be talking to some phenomenal young people, and we have two of our moderators here. We have Brian and Valerie, or I should call you Miss Lewis right now because we have one of your students with us. So definitely I'm gonna pass it over to them, but just wanted to welcome everyone. And thank you so much for joining us. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to our moderators.
All right, welcome everyone. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Perfect. All right, so I am Valerie Lewis, a Georgia educator, and I am so excited to be here today. And so today our conversation, me and my co-moderator, Brian Smith, we are talking about classroom disruptions. And with classroom disruptions, we are thinking about things that may impede students from learning. So if you remember earlier in the year, we had a part one of this conversation, and it was filled with the educators and things that we thought about. And so what we are doing today with part two is hearing it from our students' perspective. So I'm excited to be here. I'm going to let Brian Smith introduce himself to you, and then we will go ahead and kick off with question number one.
Hello, everyone. As Valerie said, my name is Brian Smith, and I am a one-to-one integration specialist in the great state of Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And one of my privileges is being able to be in the high schools and work with teachers with situations such as the topic for today. And I'm very excited to be here with Valerie, as she said earlier. It looks like we just have one student along with us. Let's go ahead and introduce the panelists, if you don't mind, Valerie. Yeah. I think we have Paris with us. Paris, you would like to say something, introduce yourself?
Hi.
And tell us a little something about yourself, Paris.
My name is Paris Smith. I'm in the 10th grade. I go to the Grand Prairie Fine Arts Academy. What else?
Awesome. Awesome. And I think we've got Kayla back with us. Hey, Kayla. Uh-oh. And Kayla, if you can hear us, go ahead. Hey, Kayla, we can hear you. If you would introduce yourself, tell us your name, tell us a little bit about you, maybe some of the things that interest you, so that the audience can know who you are.
She was like, I don't know what to say.
Alrighty then. Hello, my name's Kayla Richardson. I am a junior in Discovery High School currently. Some of my interests are really people. I want to become a geneticist when I grow up. So like doing things, helping people. Like I am the older sister brothers, so I just part of.
Awesome, sweet. Well, we are so happy, Kayla and Paris, that you can join us. I know that we had a few more students that were going to join us, and they may pop in a little bit later. But in the meantime, we want to go ahead and get rolling. We're not going to hold you guys very long, probably another 10 or 15 minutes. But when we talk about disruption, so if you think about what that word means, anything that messes up the norm. And when you think about schools and classrooms, there are often classroom or school disruptions. And if you guys don't mind, Kayla and Paris, what are some things that you think disrupt the learning environment? if you had to brainstorm and rattle some things off the top of your head, because since both of you mentioned being in high school, so you've been in school for quite some time, what were some things that you would consider over the years that have been a disruption or have impeded your learning?
I would say having students that are at drastically different learning paces can be a disruption to the kids with a faster learning pace because it slows them down and then they get bored and they don't really want to be in the classroom.
Yeah, that is definitely a good disruption. I'm glad that you brought that up, Paris. That is. And Kayla, how about you? What would you say or add to that as a disruption?
Well, I definitely agree with Paris that different learning speeds does uh, dramatically affect the environment that you're in. A lot of students who aren't on that level, who might, learn at a slower rate, they're going to feel discouraged if there are students in the class that are a lot faster than them, which, disrupts them. And then, of course, the faster paced kids are going to feel disrupted by the slower kids because they have to be held back by that.
Mm-hmm.
I also find another major distraction that does need to be addressed is just how grades. I find that grades are a very major distraction because it stops kids from being concerned about actually learning the material, and they become more worried about getting that number that is supposedly proving to the rest of the world that they are worth having in a job position or whatever else.
Mm, interesting. That is so grades is a disruption. Brian, you want to jump in and add on to
Yeah,
that?
I'm actually quite impressed by both of those responses because as educators, we don't typically hone in on those type of disruptions for the learner. Speaking about grades and trying to achieve a certain level rather than growing as a learner. And then also the fact that teachers aren't differentiating enough for you inside of the classroom. So here's the question that I have for the both of you. Um, because we are giving you this platform as a student to voice your concern and your opinions, how would you advise teachers to handle or to evenly distribute their instruction to where you can reach all levels of learners inside of the classroom?
Mhm.
Either one of you can jump in on that.
Um, well, for me personally, being a student that's been in this for a while, um, I okay. I'd like to start off by saying that I've been through two different types of schooling. I started off, of course, in your regular public school, but I only stayed there for 2 years, kindergarten and first grade. And then from there, I moved on to charter school from second to sixth grade. So from sixth up to now, I've been back in public school, and the differences are so drastic. Um, just the environment itself, going from a class of less than 12 students to a class of over 40 has been a beast in its own. And really, on I can't see teachers being able to actually cater to each student just because of how large and how manufactured everything seems. There is no personal connection. There's no kind of, I'm trying to get to know you as a learner. How can I help you to actually be successful in this world? It's more, I'm going to teach you how to make it through these holes. And if you can't fit into this mold, then you're just not going to make it. And I'm sorry about that. And so I think the whole system just needs to be broken down and rebuilt from the ground up.
And so you said class size matters. So you think that they need to start with the number of students in a classroom. Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be a good place to start. Just trying to get these classes down from 40 to 30 students to something more personal, something you'll actually be able to. Oh, well, it seems like I have a class of 12 students, and those 12 students learn best this way. So I can now teach those students this way.
Okay. How about you, Paris? What do you think? What if you could fix it, from you mentioned differentiating where kids that are getting it can get what they need, or even addressing what Kayla mentioned, what would you add? How would you fix it?
Well, her schooling system is a little bit different than mine is, seeing as her teachers, yes, she has the typical, I teach you, try to get it. If you can't, oh well, because they don't really have time for the students. But at my school, by at least halfway through the year, everyone has at least a semi-personal connection with their teacher. And it's because our teachers are very involving. They talk to us, they're there for us, and they're constantly checking up on us, and not just grade-wise. They're seeing how we're doing as people. And I think that in order to truly fix this problem, it's got to be more than just the teachers, because teachers don't sit down and say, oh, I want this kid, this kid, this kid, and this kid in my class. It's handed to them on a plate that's dirty. And so I think that if the teachers were a little more involving, it could at least inspire kids to want to stay in the classroom. However, the school board needs to instruct scheduling a little bit better and maybe change the tests from seeing how you're doing in the class to seeing how can we place you in a class full of people like you next year so that we don't have gaps between the learning processes.
Okay, so that's a good suggestion, and I'm glad that you recognize a lot of the times the problem is not just the teacher, because like you mentioned, we have no control over the students we get or the number of students we get. We're just provided a roster and said, hey, this is how many kids you have, these are the kids, and go forth and produce winners. So yeah, good.
And let me step in on that, and let me just elaborate just a tad bit, because Paris actually goes to a fine arts academy. And one of the stipulations for the educators in this school is that they actually have a fine arts background to give them a better understanding of how that particular type of student actually learns. And this is something that we've been trying to push around here, is that having a relationship, not just understanding that person's personal background, but understanding how they think and how they learn is critical, especially when you're dealing with the other situation where you have 30 to 40 kids inside of the classroom. But if you don't mind, Valerie, I wanted to actually ask our other panelists this question. In regards to having that many students in the classroom, do you think it would be helpful is if when the teacher finds those students who actually get it immediately, do you find if it would be helpful if she used those as quote-unquote student assistants inside of the classroom to actually be more like a peer mediator between those students who are struggling in those classrooms?
Is that for me or the student?
No, the student.
All right. So Kayla and Paris, do you think
that was for Kayla?
Oh, that was for Kayla. Kayla, unmute your mic. And what do you think? Do you think using those students would work in that role?
Okay. All right. First, I'd like to start by saying I do agree with Paris that, I've talked to many teachers, and that's the main thing they're complaining about. They're just throwing kids in my class left and right. We keep getting, schedules shifted and all that. And, I can understand that because, like with my old charter school setup, you really didn't have, you knew what students you were going to get because you taught them last year. And so as the school was growing, you just moved up with those students. So I had like the same teacher 4 years in a row. And so, going to a school where most likely you're going to have that teacher once, for that one grade, and then they're going to move on to a whole new batch of kids, it seems weird to me. Now, I do think that if kids who are learning faster and who are getting it could help those who are struggling, it would make it a lot easier, not only on the teacher but the students, because I do know that that's one thing that I, love doing, especially when I see any of my peers struggling. If I know that I'm getting it and they're not, and maybe they're getting something that I'm not, I like to be able to help them so that it takes to, oh, I have to learn it, I'm not getting it, and the teacher doesn't have time to help me because the classes are so large, to, oh, I can just come to this person and I know that they'll help me get it. And so I think that really does, it helps.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry. Well, I think that that system could work. However, it should be introduced as more of a buddy system from the beginning to the end of the year. Because if you start in the middle and say, "Hey, these kids get it," you can partner up with them. It might make some of the students who are struggling feel kind of bad about themselves. It might make them feel dumb, essentially, because it's like, "Oh, hey, you need help," when
Yeah.
maybe they're just slow.
Yeah.
It's a very good point, Paris.
That is a good point. That is a good point. But you guys have definitely bought, and while we're doing this live hangout, there are a lot of teachers, and Sarah, Miss Thomas, is monitoring that for us that are on Twitter, and they are joining in on the conversation, and they're very impressed by how articulate you guys are. But when we talk about classroom disruptions, you guys brought up two very important ones. Are there any other things that you think, and I'll throw one out there that I think Kayla might, it may go with you talking about large class sizes, which may be students themselves that may be disruptive in the classroom. But are there any other things that you think may be a classroom disruption, from the way a teacher teaches, maybe the way the building looks? I know you brought up grades, which was a very good point. Are there any other things that you think may be a disruption to how you or students that look like you or your same age range are learning today that may be problematic? And that's for either one of you.
Well, I think that if the student doesn't want to be there, then that in itself is a disruption. It can be for everyone, but it's mainly for them, because if they don't want to be there, then they're not even going to try to learn. And also, if they don't want to be there, they're going to try and get other people to socialize with them, or they're going to go off and find something else to do that is distracting to other students.
Another good one.
Yes, I do agree with Paris. I'm sorry, Mr. Brian. Distractions in the school. Yes, yes, there are plenty of student distractions. Kids who don't want to be there, kids who find that certain teachers are against them, certain teachers who might actually have it out for certain students. There's so many situations that could go on that create all types of disruptions. And really one that I find is connected with the grades, and also this kind of impending doom that I feel a lot of students can understand. It's like, okay, I have a bunch of friends, myself included. We're all honors gifted AP students, right? So our number one distraction is, oh, I have homework from this teacher, this teacher, this teacher, this teacher. I have a test on Tuesday. I need to make sure I study for, the AP exam. My grades not at a 3.0, so this college isn't going to be looking at me. And you become so distracted with trying to fit into those specs, those constraints, that you completely forget the fact that you're in this program to actually learn and pick up the information so that you can apply it to your everyday life. And it's really just a rat race. You the the joy of actually learning something and being able to use it in your everyday life and being able to say, wow, this actually helped me and it actually helped me to help someone else, that's taken away from you due to, all of these constraints and restrictions that are put on learning. Because it's from being able to go out and just learn things that they're interested in because they're, bogged down by things that they are told they should know. When in reality, it might not be, related to whatever career they want or, what their passions are.
So what I'm hearing you say, Kayla, is that the pressures of being a teenager, especially one that obviously seems to be doing pretty well in school, is a little suffocating. And you kind of want a little bit of freedom to go after the things that you feel are going to interest you in the long run, career-wise. But you feel like you're just in this cycle of keeping up with other kids, or there's this rat race of finish to the top. Everyone's going after these grades because that's the pressure you feel the school systems have on you. And you're not appreciating that too much.
Yes, because see, and I could, I see it in my brothers all the time. You see, on learners of the past, like my parents and stuff, they're, it's always, comparing grades, like I've never sat down with my AP classmates and we've just been like, oh man, guess what I learned today? Boy, I learned something that's gonna change my world, and that kind of makes me sad because when I think of school, I think of learning, education, bettering yourself, and all I get to hear is, people like me and even people who aren't AP and stuff complaining about, oh man, I got a 50 on this, my grade has dropped 3 points down, I need to get extra credit, and oh, I can't remember what we even ate for lunch today. I can't remember what we just walked out of the class talking about. It becomes so automated. And
Okay.
I like to tell my brothers that it's like we're being turned into drones. We're being programmed that this is what you should know. If you don't get this amount of answers correct on a test, then that means that you are at this level and that will determine your future. And that
Wow.
completely,
Yeah.
you know, reconstructs how the human brain is even supposed to work in the first place. The human
Wow.
brain is supposed to be something that just goes on its own tempo, and yet we have a system setting our tempo for us.
Wow.
Kayla, that is extremely powerful. And as a parent, not only as an educator, I understand and I feel your pain and I see the pressure on a lot of these kids. And I'm afraid of that as well. I want my kid to be his kid as long as possible because when they get older, there'll be enough time for all this pressure in life.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a question, because I get it, and I think we all get it here. How can we change it? What is your insight on how we can actually one, relieve you of some of this pressure and bring back in the value of learning for the learning's sake and for growth's sake, and keep you from uh, thinking that you are just a statistic to get you into school and to look good for our own high school numbers. What is that solution? Or any ideas? I know you probably don't have the solution, but what are your ideas on how we can change that?
And Paris, if you want to jump in and add, if you have an idea towards that, we'll let you go ahead and start off with how you think that can be solved, and or how students can be part of it, because we need your voices, because you guys are the ones feeling it. So how do you feel like you guys can be part of this change that can happen?
Well, the first thing I would automatically say without thinking is get rid of grades. But when you think about it, we kind of need grades to help keep us on track and to make sure that we're actually doing what we should be doing. But maybe we should give out grades for different things instead of just scores or how you do. Maybe more participation grades, but not just, oh, hey, you were here, you listened, 100. But maybe more, were you listening and understanding what we were saying and engage the students in conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe have students, I don't know, buddy up so that they can relieve some of the pressure onto each other and lean on each other and get their stuff done together. But that kind of goes against what I was originally wanting to say, that group projects at my school are kind of a big deal, and instead of group projects just being, oh, hey, here's a group project every once in a while, you get about 3 group projects every 9 weeks, and the group projects are usually just randomized people, and that puts a lot of stress on a lot of people, because for me, I usually either end up doing all the work, or my partner doesn't, or I give the assignment to my partner because I feel like I'll lose it, and they end up losing it, and we have to frantically rebuild it or turn it in late, or it's really stressful for group projects. So I definitely do not have an absolute answer on how to relieve stress from students, but other than relieves the load a little bit, chillax on the grades a bit, but they're kind of necessary. So I don't really know how to fully solve the problem.
No, and that's fine. And you don't have to have the full solution, but I think you've said a lot. You said that there are times where collaborative group work is necessary and important, but then there are times where individuals need to be able to work on their own thing and show what they need to know. I also heard you say you would like for teachers to be able to be a little bit flexible and allow students to have a voice in the classroom and just speak on matters that are important to their hearts and their minds and things that are going to lead them to their careers. And so if we kind of incorporate a little bit of all of those things, you feel like that might help. And of course, when grades aren't necessary as they're associated with a test grade, then don't use them. Find another way to see what students know. So you've actually given us quite a bit of areas in which, if teachers listen to your advice, and not just teachers alone, but school systems, that I think that we might be able to take some of that pressure off of you guys as teams. Well, I just want to say you guys have been awesome, and I am super proud of the responses that you have given. As a parent myself, just like Mr. Smith, I have younger ones, 9, 6, and 3. I would hope that when they become teens that they will articulate just as well as you ladies did for us here on this panel. You guys were awesome. I think the teachers that are watching, they're echoing the sentiment. And who knows? I mean, this video may make it to some school board meetings or, in the classrooms of some teachers to see like, hey, this is not what we said. This is coming from the teens themselves. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time out today and speaking with us.
All right, and I do want to say, you know, I am, very happy that you guys did come to us and ask us to be on this, and I agree with what Paris was saying and everything. Uh, that group projects can be just stressful in the way that they get set up and everything, and I do hope, as a student, as a learner, not really a student, but a learner, that, our concerns can be heard, you know.
Absolutely. Well, we are hearing you today, and we will hope that you guys will continue to feel comfortable to reach out to any of us. We are here. We are advocates for you guys. We get it. And I know not every educator does, but please know that this group of educators that are listening and watching, we want to help amplify your voice, and we will continue to
Absolutely.
do this work for you guys.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I was just saying thank you all so much. This was very insightful. Love the responses. So thank you so much to Kayla and to Paris, as well as to our moderators, Ms. Lewis and Mr. Smith. So great to have you all on here. Thank you to everyone who tweeted with us, who watched, who commented. There was actually a comment on Twitter saying that both of our student panelists should have jobs at the Department of Education because just your answers are just on fire. So definitely hope to see you there in maybe a few years, or maybe they'll have a student ambassador program. Who knows? But definitely, this episode will be the transcript. The Twitter transcript will be released in just a couple of minutes, and it'll be available as an iTunes podcast in a few weeks. So next week we're going to be talking about personalized professional learning. So we're going to have Nicole moderating that. Nicole Taylor will come back next week. Same bad time, same bad channel, different bat website, bit.ly/tweet talk 57. Anyone can be a panelist. Just leave a comment on a Google Hangout page that I just mentioned. In addition, we have our EduMatch shirts available for sale. You can find those at our website, edumatch.org. So subscribe to our podcast at bit.ly/EduMatch podcast. So again, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to our moderators. Thank you to our student panelists. You all were fire. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So everyone have a fantastic evening.
Thank you.